Hello, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Growthvisory. As always, I am Jim Crimella, and I'll be your host today. And with me is an amazing gentleman. I am so excited about this because I have never had a business growth conversation with like a real bank. And I think this is going to be an amazing conversation. I'm super excited that he agreed to join us on the Growthvisory today. Welcome to the show, Kyle Beckman, who is the Director of Marketing for First Bankers Trust. Welcome, Kyle. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Absolutely. It is a true honor to have you on here. And as I always say, I think I would do you injustice by trying to introduce yourself. So I'm just going to turn that over to you. So who are you? Who is First Bankers Trust? And why should we be banking with you?
Yeah. So Kyle Beckman, Director of Marketing. I've been with First Bankers Trust for going on 6 years now. We are at the root of what we do. We're a community bank. But that's just kind of scratching the surface of who we are. We're centered out of Quincy, Illinois, but we've got about a dozen locations scattered between St. Louis and Springfield, Illinois. We have a couple different divisions that are a little bit unique to us. A couple different separate brands that fall underneath of our umbrella. But yeah, as far as what we do, I think for us, our main focus is number one, like I said, being a community bank and having that personal touch to people. But I think the unique thing with us is that we're trying to also be in that middle ground between community bank and mega bank, right? So we want to have all of the tools and all of the resources and technology that you would get with a mega bank, but we want to have that personal touch that you and your grandma would get at your local community bank.
Yeah, because I throughout my decades of life, I've been with big banks because it's convenient or whatever. I've been with little banks, and you kind of take that technology piece for granted, right? And then you go to like a small credit union, and they may not have those same bells and whistles. So it's really cool to see that you're really trying to blend those two to give that more personal touch. So I'm not going to a random banker in a random branch that I've never really talked to before to get help with. I can go to my banker, right? And I feel like that's what you're probably trying to create.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you could come into any one of our locations or call in or, shoot us a text and you're going to get a real person on the other side. And, we always prioritize pushing our people to work with the customers that they're familiar with. So you're not going to get a different person each time you contact us. You're going to get the same person you've worked with in the past.
Yeah, it's like that old timey feel. It's like I actually have a banker,
Yeah.
this is my banker, not just I'm a part of this bank. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, typically business is about growth and Growthvisory, our podcast around growth. And I always found it, I'm super excited for this conversation that wasn't just hype on the beginning. Is because like I've never had a business discussion about how do you grow a bank? How do you get bigger than you were last year? So with that in mind, I'd love to discuss with you kind of what are your plans for growth for 2025? How do you strategize for it? And then more importantly, or most importantly, how do you implement those strategies to achieve that growth? So I always believe in starting with the end in mind. So in terms of like goal setting, things like that. So in terms of like revenue or percentage growth for First Bankers Trust, what do you need to see in the next 12 months for it to really be a win?
Yeah, I think, banking is a unique industry. I think, and I would say this too, this is like I said, been 6 years that I've been at the bank, but this is my first time working in the banking industry. So there's still so much more to it than the general public realizes. I mean, you're talking, there's so much variance in loans, terms, deposit accounts, checking accounts, savings, all these different pieces. And I think I think if you talk to any bank right now, there's just a ton of stiff competition for deposit accounts. And so getting money on the books, getting checking accounts, I think that's really the biggest focus for us and for a lot of banks over the next 12 months. I mean, we're all going to be competing with rates. The way interest rates are right now impacts all of us. I wish we had the same low rates we had back during COVID, but the reality
2021 was like the year. If you were in banking, mortgage, anything like that, it was a much sunnier outlet than it is 2022.
Yep. And that's just a challenge. Everybody industry wide is kind of facing the same thing. And, obviously we want we want as many loans and everything that we can get. But I would say right now the priority is really growth through deposits.
Okay. Yeah. So it's that I was going to ask. That was my next question. Really is. So what is the priority? Is it getting that foot in the door with a deposit account, which leads into these longer relationships? Now, does your bank offer like a credit card specifically to your bank, or is it really business loans, real estate loans, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we offer all of it, right?
Okay.
We have free checking accounts, we have interest-bearing checking accounts, we do have a credit card, business loans. We actually have a fun small business campaign that we're pushing right now for people to help, number one, help small businesses get a good starting point. We have a lot of tools, digital banking tools that would help these small businesses. And then on the flip side, we're also making donations to low to moderate income individuals or organizations. So it's really helping the less fortunate or those who need it. But I would say really with the way it all looks, there's a priority for us is generating new accounts, right? I would think we're pretty confident that we have a good relationship with the people that have already banked with us. It's really a matter of how do we get the new accounts to come to us. And I think what you're seeing right now is, yeah, especially since COVID and just the change in generations and the way that people interact with businesses or how they bank, right? We look at the Amazon effect. Before Amazon was really a thing, you went to the store and you got what you needed,
Right.
right?
You physically went to the
Grandma
bank.
and yeah,
Yeah.
grandma and your parents and everybody else, they would come to the bank. Saturday morning, we're going to go spend an hour or two at the bank handling all of our finances. Since COVID, since Amazon, right now your packages come to you. And so when we think about banking and how we service this next generation or users like you and I, I'm busy. I don't have time to come to the bank all the time and carve out that time. So how do I have access to my finances all the time? And how do I make sure that I can manage my money, whether I'm here, there, or anywhere? And I think that's a unique, when we think about how, like, I said earlier, we're trying to balance being in between community bank and then a mega bank.
Right. Right.
Well, we want to cater to people who've banked with us for 40 years and they want to come in on a Saturday morning. And we still want to be able to cater to the new accounts that don't have the time or the interest in coming in at all. So it's a unique, wide-ranging scope of what we're trying to accomplish, but it's a fun challenge.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely want to dive into that because it's like you have two different marketing challenges. I think it's like one, you have to figure out how do I create new relationships, so new people that come in with those new deposit accounts. So that's like one part of it. But then the
Right.
other swath of it is, especially with those new accounts, like you just got these new accounts. A lot of these new accounts don't anticipate having a deep relationship with their bank. Like I've got a bank and I dread going to the bank because I don't have a neighborhood branch, so I have to drive a half hour and do all of these
Right.
things. That's a whole different marketing challenge. Is how do you create a deeper relationship with those depositors, right? Like, so they have a checking account and I got it because it's free and I got this app and I can do all these things and self-serve. But how do you stay top of mind on them to deepen that relationship, whether it's a credit card offering or a business loan, or they need a refinance for their mortgage, or they're looking to purchase a new home? I can see that being as sort of a two-pronged challenge, if you will. Like, do you agree with that, or am I off
Yeah.
base?
Yeah, and I almost feel like a two-pronged approach is underselling it a little bit, right? Like it really is. Outbound wise, we want new accounts, right? And typically the checking account is one of the is probably the most active, so it's typically easier to acquire those accounts or get somebody to change a bank with a checking account, right? But that checking account isn't just a checking account, right? You have to look at it from a customer perspective. And if I move my checking account, I'm more likely to potentially get a car loan at this new bank, right? I'm more likely to consider it for my mortgage, right? Like that's the
Right,
the bank I'm going to talk to first.
right,
So
right,
we have to think about it in that sense. And then really when we think about, not even just new accounts, but even maintaining the relationship with the accounts we already have, it's, there's only so much time in the day.
right.
And we have to essentially put on our customer service hats, right? And there's one element to it that is responsive, right? How do we help somebody who's locked out of their account? How do we
Right,
help
right.
them manage a transfer or whatever it is? Versus also saying like you said, being top of mind and being proactive and nurturing our own customers to say, Hey, next time you're looking for a car, here's the reasons why we're the best option for you, or here's how we can help you with that. So it's a lot of different pieces. And I think the big thing for us is just how do you get yourself in a position or put the brand in a position to be where the current customer or the prospective customer is going to be at that time.
Right. And I would imagine, being a smaller entity compared to like a Bank of America or a Chase or
Right.
something like that, some of those same marketing strategies that they use are not really as effective for a community bank, just sponsoring a pro baseball team and having your banners out in the
Yeah.
backfield. It's that branding and it works, but it's not necessarily doesn't move the needle that much for a smaller community bank. So I can see that. So with that in
Right.
mind, in terms of marketing, so what are you guys doing from a strategy standpoint to try and get those new deposit accounts?
Yeah, I mean, I wish, like you said, I wish we had the ability to get Charles Barkley to come be our First Bankers Trust
Right.
guy. It just doesn't work like that. But I think for us, and this is probably the biggest initiative that I focus on is really coming down to marketing attribution. I think the unique thing for us and a lot of businesses, not even just bank specific, are focused on brand, focused on marketing. But how do you actually make and gather tangible insights and KPIs that
Yep.
can help drive those decisions? And it's something that I started on it when I first came to the bank, and it took a few years for us to get it established and built. And we're still constantly iterating on what that looks like and trying to get a better understanding of marketing effectiveness. But at the end of the day, we're to a point now where I have a pretty good grasp on what marketing channels are working for which products, and then
Nice.
we can use that to drive budget decisions and strategies around what our marketing communication looks like to new and current customers.
Fantastic. Now, I know, I don't want you to divulge proprietary secrets,
Yeah.
but are you willing to go a little deeper on any of it where you're like, this strategy is really working out, whether that's whatever it is, community outreach or
Yeah.
this type of thing? Like, what specifically are you willing to share with the
Yeah.
audience about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, obviously I don't want to spill the secret sauce, but I think that the nice
Yes.
thing about it is like we
I always walk that fine line.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I want to get as much info, as
Yeah.
much juice as you're going to give me, but I also don't want you to like
Yeah.
lose some type of proprietary benefit
Sure.
that you have or advantage
Well,
you
no,
have.
and that's the unique thing about what we do and where I'm comfortable with it is that we didn't grab an attribution model from some other vendor online. Like when I started here, and like the reason why it took a few years is because I built it from the ground up. We
Gotcha.
had we had nothing. We used to be in the business of running newspaper ads all
Mhm.
over the place, and that was our core strategy. Um,
Hard to track
you know,
those.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And we were spending marketing dollars on cookies in the lobby and things like that. And those are great things and people remember that. But at the end of the day, how do we know that it's generating any traction?
Correct.
So for us, it really came down to this attribution model and how do you track it, right? Like how do you get insights? And I think the caveat to it is that you won't ever get 100% of data
Correct.
accuracy. But as long as I mean, shoot, if you're catching 2/3 of it, I think that's enough for you to base some decisions off of,
For
right?
sure.
So for us, I mean, obviously in a digital world and the capabilities you have with digital, there's so much more ability to track what's effective, right?
Yes.
So we
Yeah, I'm
have,
very spoiled from that. Like
yeah,
most of the marketing efforts I do are online. So it's like I don't even think about not having the ability to attribute, the
right,
effectiveness of this marketing strategy because online it is not, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's available, right? Like
right.
it's readily available to attribute where your dollars are coming from.
Right. Well, and the other thing that's unique about banking is the regulations and the compliance side are so constraining
Yeah.
that it's so hard to target people based on like a digital ad or paid search or keywords or
Okay.
anything like that. Like previous jobs I had, you could, if you wanted to hire a truck driver, right, you could run through a persona exercise and say, hey, they're interested in NASCAR. So we're going to run ads for recruiting for truck drivers during NASCAR on Sundays and so on and so forth,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you could set the target demographic and gender, age, all this type of stuff. And in banking you really can't do that, right?
Yep.
It's 18 and up, and it's
Yep.
like the polar opposite of what you want from a targeted marketing approach. So it really becomes like a shift of from marketing, how do you see effectiveness in each channel, and then how do you find a way to wrap it all back around and connect the dots? And there's a manual element to tracking that, just because customer information, right, we have to keep that as safe as
Yeah.
possible,
Yep.
and so we try to stay away from it, and we try to like still track to the account level, always to it's so many different moving parts that it's clunky if you don't figure out a way to reconcile everything and get it all into one clean, actionable dashboard, I would
Right,
say.
right. Now, don't give me specific, like, I want to ask this question, but I'm not trying to get you to give me specific software names or things like that. But
Yeah.
when you say you built it from the ground up, did you literally work with a developer to do a custom attribution solution, or did you find something that you were able to adapt, like a Google Analytics or some type of third-party tracking software to be able to do the attribution and leverage it? And obviously, I'm sure you customized it,
Yeah.
but I'm sure my listeners want to know. It's like, well, did he just make it from scratch, or did he implement something that I may be able to find on my own too?
Yeah, so it started out as it started out as scratch. It started out in a spreadsheet, right? Just like
Yep.
everything in a bank does. It's in an Excel spreadsheet. But then it did become. I mean, we utilize Google Analytics. We
Mhm.
utilize UTM's and tracking URLs. We went through and we updated our website and made it number one, more user friendly. Number two, it's less built on like the old like HTML structure
Right,
that's
right.
archaic, and now it's a little bit more responsive.
Yep.
We evaluated at times, we would look at like heat maps and interactions on the website, and then really the biggest piece for us was investing in a marketing CRM to help
Okay.
support what it was. And I think for us, we knew we wanted the data to help support the decisions that we were doing, and ultimately we're looking at lead generation, right?
Right.
That's the start for us. And so, we evaluated things like HubSpot and
Mhm.
Salesforce and those types of things. So we utilize a little bit of everything, but we try to integrate it all into one place. And then at the end of the day, yeah, I would say we have like our marketing tactics and platforms all in one spot. And then we have our core system for the bank. And at the
Right.
end of the day, we try to keep them, we keep them as separate as possible.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what you got to do from a compliance standpoint.
But then there's the reconciliation on the back end too, to say, all right, we have X number of contacts. We know these people. The core system or the bank system also supports and shows this type of information too. So we can balance it back and forth. And like we're really adamant about tracking, like I said, types of accounts
Mhm.
and value of the account, not necessarily John Doe has this account, this account, this account. It's more about lumping together types of accounts, types of activities, and then trying to figure out where do we, one, push outbound lead generation efforts, and then number two, how do we cross sell to our current people, regardless of
Right.
who they are or where they are.
So what type of channels are you using for outbound? Like, are you mostly digital or are you still print? Do you like host community events? What
Yeah,
type of
we
channels would you say are your bread and butters?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. Honestly, I would say we right now are about I'd say we're about 65% digital
Okay.
when we look at our integrated approach. We did start rolling out this year some I'd lump it into content marketing, but it's really like event centered thought leadership. So we have a great team of bankers who are really fluid in mitigating fraud, protecting your accounts, just safeguarding your finances, and then also like
Okay.
uh, business activities, treasury management, that type of stuff. And so that team, they'll physically go to schools, they'll go to businesses, and we offer these complimentary seminars for them, and we customize it to that business. And at a minimum, they leave with some good insights on
Right.
how to safeguard their information and their accounts. And for us, we hope that we get some accounts out of it, right?
Of course. Right. Now, because of all the different lending products and things that you guys offer online, do you have like that multi-pronged approach where it's like we have this campaign generating leads for this and this campaign generating leads for that? Or is it more of a holistic come introduce ourselves to the bank and get to know us and create that relationship? Or is it very much transactional focused on the front end, meaning I'm a person that's in Illinois. I need a mortgage. I see an ad from you guys about a mortgage, and that's how I start the relationship. Or is it an ad is served up saying, "Hey, this could be your community bank, and this is how we differentiate from
Right.
a Bank of America or something large, where you will be an account number, you will not have a personalized touch." Are you finding that you're doing both and getting more success with one or the other?
Yeah, so we do both. And the way that I handle it, or the way that our team looks at it, is that we have kind of like our baseline. This is our always on marketing. right?
Right.
There's always paid search going. There's always digital display ads running. There's always social content going. We try to add variety and variance in there. We manage brand reputation, like I said, the different divisions that fall within our bank. And then again, like sales focused. And then we also have a lot of content just around our brand and our people and the impact we make in the community. So all of that stuff's always on, right?
Right.
And that's the goal of that, is to help be there when somebody needs us, right? So that's the
Correct.
reactionary side. And then beyond that, we're proactive. So we also run designated campaigns for a set amount of time. So like right now, we have all the always on stuff, and then
Hmm.
we're also running this small business campaign. And
Okay.
we try to take that top to bottom with our employees. So everybody from our executive leadership team down to every single banker we have at every location, we want them involved with the campaign. We want to share that success and that drive to push towards those KPIs. So we share out like a weekly leaderboard. We incentivize employees to help make referrals and help support the tracking side of the data. So it's really a full company wide initiative when we run a marketing campaign. And building up that engagement's a little bit of a challenge in its own right. But I would say it's two pieces. It's the always on, and then it's the targeted campaigns that go on top of that.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So I know we've talked a lot of different strokes of what you guys are doing, and it sounds like everything's really clicking and you've got this a very sound system. And I
Yeah.
wish I could sit here and say, as a business owner, business always goes well. Right. Every idea that I have works out. Everything is hunky dory, but that's not the reality of life. Right. So sometimes we are going to have blockers. We are going to run into challenges. And if are you willing to share with us a little bit about, maybe what is the biggest blocker right now between what you're currently going through and, hey, our goals are here, the number of accounts we want to open up and new relationships we want to have for 2025? What is the biggest blocker in your world right now?
Yeah, I think there's, like we talked about a little bit already, like rates and just the industry and the
Yep.
competition for business is one, but everybody's going to face that, right? So I think the next thing for us is really around, the like we're trying to be idealistic, right? We want to be human and we want to have all the tech, and that's a hard balance to find.
Right.
And
Because one, almost
inevitably,
like the more technologically focused you get,
yeah,
it's sort of purposely removing the human element,
right,
right?
right. And
Because you're talking to an app, not a human.
yeah, exactly. And that can cause concern for customers. That can cause concern for employees, right? And so I think it's really interesting, but we have to balance these improvements, and then the communication has to just be really clear that this is a great step forward for us and for the customers and for the employees, so like everybody at the end of the day, no matter what role you're in, it's what's in it for me. And I think that's one of the unique things for us, is how do we leverage new technology, new opportunities without alienating anybody? And so I
Right.
think it's a fine line to balance and educate people. And attention spans are shorter, right? Everybody's on the go, and how do you stop the thumb from scrolling and be able to tell
Right.
a story in a short amount of time? So that's one of the unique things, is growth with clarity and just a clear understanding of what's the impact and the benefit for everybody.
Yep. And I did think you hit the nail on the head with effective marketing strategy. For those of you that are watching out there that are looking for it, they may have missed it. Kyle did hit the nail on the head. Storytelling, right? Like storytelling is one of the easiest ways to make that genuine connection, especially in the online world where it's so crazy how connected we are from a device standpoint and how disconnected we are from like true human connection. It's so weird to me. That's like we live in this world where it's so easy to be connected, yet we're more isolated than we've ever been in some instances, and it takes that extra effort. And I love talking with you about your company where you guys really are focused. We want to be on the cutting edge of technology. So it's there for a convenience standpoint, but we don't want to lose the human element that's made us uniquely us.
Right.
So I think it's a fantastic and awesome challenge you guys are going to have to continue to balance. But it sounds like you guys have a really solid plan. I've greatly enjoyed this conversation because it gives me insights into like a bank itself you think of, here's just a brick and mortar and it's like, if I need a bank, I'll come to you. But realistically, banks are businesses just like anything else. And you have your growth goals, and you have struggles and you have wins, and a fascinating conversation about how you guys are doing it. And definitely major kudos to you for putting together and building that attribution model so that you can know. And I feel like, a lot of old school businesses, old school business models like a bank is, sometimes if you're a smaller, you forget about that stuff because it's not how we've ever done it before. It's something brand new.
Right.
So congratulations on that. And thank you so much for your time. If listeners watching this or listening to this podcast in their car and they want to get a hold of you guys over at First Bankers Trust, how can they do that?
Yeah, you can visit us online at firstbankers.com, completely spelled out. And then you can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And if you want, you can shoot me an email. It'll just be easiest at marketing@firstbankers.com.
Okay. So if you're looking for them, it's First Bankers, so FIRST, and then bankersplural.com. So everything like Kyle said, spelled out. Kyle, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you taking the time to share some insights into your world with us. Fascinating stuff. I think you're doing a fantastic job. Absolutely. Anytime. All right. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Growthvisory, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye now.